Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Corey Lanier here, man. I'm finally getting back to giving you guys some value on my channel with a couple tips on how to take some really dope photography, and it's with a Lumix G7. So if you guys want to learn how to take some supreme, crisp images using one of my favorite tools in my arsenal, then keep watching this video. Okay, guys, so let's get straight into it because I feel like you guys are ready for the info right now. So one of the best tools you could ever use to take fire photos, whether it's with the Lumix G7 or even a Sony A7S series, and that is the portable strobe. Now, one of the reasons why you want to use like artificial light or portable strobes, flashes, anything like that in the first place is because it gives you versatility to always have like studio settings anywhere you go. When I first got into photography, it wasn't with the Lumix G7. I think I was using like a Nikon D5000, and that's like over a 10-year-old camera. But all of the techniques are still the same. The reason why you want a portable flash is because no matter what environment you're in, you'll always be able to come away with a really fire photo. Whether it's pitch black or daylight outside, you'll be able to have multiple options to be able to give yourself that perfect look that you're looking for. Now, contrary to belief, it's not really about the camera you're using or even necessarily the lens. Even though a lens can give you different degrees of like a blurry background, it's not absolutely necessary to have a really dope lens to be able to take fire photos. Having artificial light will put you above the rest or the competition. So with that said, the portable light that I want to talk to you guys about today is the Neewer Vision 4 portable strobe. Now, this is not a sponsored video at all. I mean, if Neewer wants to sponsor me, that would be great. A strobe like this is really dope because you can use it in the daytime, you can use it in studio settings, you can use it indoors like we are right now, and it will deliver. It's powerful enough to work with the sun, it's powerful to work in pitch black, and the fact that it's portable and it has its own light source, its own battery built in, I'll show you real quick. Now, this little thing right here packs a punch because after you charge it fully for about 4 hours, it can last you up to like 3 days, to be honest with you, of continuous shooting. I don't think they recommend it being last 3 days without charging it, but I've charged it fully and done like multiple shoots throughout the 3 days, and it's lasted perfectly fine, and then I just charged it just because I felt like it should be charged. It might even last a little longer. But after you charge it, all you gotta do is just slide it back into the slot, make sure it's secure and fastened in there, turn it on, and it's ready to go. Now, the trigger that goes to the strobe is right here. I think it's a 2.4 gigahertz trigger. In order for it to work with your camera, all you have to do, if you have the Lumix G7 or any other camera with a hot shoe mount, is just slide it on top, make sure it's secured fastly in there, switch your camera to like manual mode or any other like photo setting mode you want to use for your camera, and just start shooting. When you start, every time you hit the trigger, it'll cause the flash unit to go off, and you're in business. Now, one thing I always do with the trigger just to make sure everything's working with my strobe is there's a test button at the top, then you can hit just like that, and it will let you know if the trigger's working or if the strobe's working, all that good stuff. Make sure on the bottom of the trigger that the switches are switched to the numbers, because if like one of them is off or all of them are off in the off position, then your trigger won't work with this strobe. It's usually used for like if you have multiple strobes in one room and you can choose which ones you want to go off and which ones you don't want to go off. I believe you can have up to 4 strobes that get triggered from this trigger at the same time. Now, some of the settings that you want to have or keep in mind whenever you're shooting with flash photography is your shutter speed. If your shutter speed is too fast, then you'll start to get this weird effect on your photos where half of the screen looks like completely dark and the other half you can actually see, or it'll be maybe too bright or exactly how you want it. But it's because of the speed of light and how fast your shutter speed is closing. If it's closing too fast, it's only letting half the light in or 3/4 of the light in at a time, and you're literally being resulted in only seeing half of the screen. So make sure your shutter speed is usually somewhere around 120. That way you can always get that perfect light in. And if you want your pictures to be darker or lighter, then you use the other 2 methods to actually brighten or darken your photos, which is either bumping up the aperture or lowering it down, or lowering your ISO or bumping it up. And if you guys know anything about photography, then you know that if you bump up your aperture, then everything in the image is going to be really sharp and clean. You're not going to get any depth of field, and it will darken your image if things are too bright. But if you lower your aperture, it'll brighten your image, and you'll also start to get like that blurry background look the lower you go. With your ISO, the higher your ISO goes up, the more sensitive to light your camera becomes, and you'll get a brighter photo as well. But be careful, because the higher your ISO goes up, the grainier image will start to look, and you don't want that. So you usually want to keep it as low as possible. And with strobe photography, you really don't have to have it high at all. Maybe keep it on 100 or 200 at the most. And that's really it. Some of the images that I've been showing you guys while watching this video was from a photo shoot that I did in Washington, D.C. for a magazine that was starting up in D.C. and they wanted me to take some pictures of a model they had in this red dress, and I had this strobe with me while I was taking these photos in DC. It was pretty dope. All I did was most of the time have the strobe set up at like a 45-degree angle from my subject, and we just snapped away, and it gives you a really good look, especially with this diffuser on top that does come with the strobe as well. Now as far as durability, this thing is really durable. As you can see, it is really beat up. I have used this thing so many times. It's even fallen down a mountain. When I was in Red Rock Canyon just outside of Las Vegas, I dropped the strobe and it started sliding down the mountain, and I was scared that it wasn't gonna work. I was doing a photo shoot for a client who was like a female bodybuilder, and she had just like 1 second place, and she went to take some pictures with her actual medal on. And since we were on the slope, it was a lot easier for this thing to fall over. It fell over, slid. I picked it right back up, made sure it was on, and we kept going, and it worked perfectly fine. I was really amazed at this thing, and I plan on getting another one, mainly just because of that fact. Very durable. Another really cool benefit to having a portable strobe and not just a strobe that you have to plug into the wall is the fact that when you're in places that are remote places like a beach or like the canyons, there's nowhere to do the plug. And I was starting to realize that studio look that you get when you're actually in a building and you can get these really high power flashes on your subject looks really good all the time if you can reproduce it. And you can reproduce it when you have a portable strobe. When you're able to get something like this and bring it out to a park and just sit it on a tripod and always have that perfect flash at the perfect angle every time, I personally think it's a little better than bouncing a light off a reflector, because not every time is the light going to be strong enough from the sun or from another source to be able to bounce and get that perfect type of ratio, that perfect look that you're looking for. So yeah, that's really all I have to say, guys. If you want to use a strobe with your Lumix G7, this is the way to go. This is the way you do it. Just plug on your trigger with your strobe after you've turned it on. Okay, before I go, I just realized that I didn't teach you guys how to turn the strobe on. Let me show you how easy that is as well, and then I'll let you guys go and you can watch another video. Now, turning your strobe on is actually pretty simple. There's a switch underneath your strobe with a white dot on it. All you have to do is push that white dot in, and your strobe should turn on if your battery is seated inside of the strobe the correct way. If you want your strobe to be more powerful or less powerful, there's these two arrows that are facing opposite directions, and that controls the strength of your light. I usually stay at like 1/64th power, which is the lowest setting, and I crank it up depending on how much light I need. And there's also a temporary light that you can turn on to help you get your focus depending on if you're in pitch black. It's marked as a light bulb. If you hit that, your actual light inside the strobe will turn on temporarily just so you can pull your focus and you can turn it off. Or if you wait, it'll eventually go off on its own. But really, other than that, that's really all you have to know to get started with using your portable strobe with your camera and to make some great photos like the ones that I just showed you guys. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys learned something from this video. If you did, please leave a comment. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I have more valuable tutorials for you guys on the way, as well as some travel videos. I will be traveling out the country pretty soon. I look forward to taking you guys on this journey with me. But until then, make sure you guys keep aiming for the top, and I'll see you guys in the next video.